Hi, this is a quick conversation about troubadour music and music that was written during the Middle Ages and preserved and that has survived that does not have anything to do with the Roman Catholic Church. Now, again, most of the people that at the time would have been able to afford to pay a scribe or would have been able to write the music down themselves, which were pretty much their only choices, would have been members of the clergy or members of royalty. And troubadours were very often people that were affiliated, at least, with royalty. They had access to royalty, and a great many of them were kind of lower level. So maybe not the queen or the king, but like a count or a countess, as in the case of the Countess of Dia, who very little is known of this woman. We do know that we're not sure. She might have lived in the 1170s. We have no idea about birth date. So she might have lived in the 1170s. She might have lived in the 1215, like the 12 teens or the 1220s, maybe both. Maybe she lived through all of that time. We have very scant evidence as to whether her name actually was Beatrice. There might be another name that she went by. It's not clear, but it's believed that this person was named Beatrice, maybe. We don't quite know about her time period or about what her living situation was, but it is understood that she would have been a noblewoman. She would have been a member of the court. And again, it is believed that she was married to a count. She was a countess, right? That's the way that worked. But that she was secretly in love with another member of the court, another troubadour. So maybe somebody that was maybe somebody that was not her husband. Although again, we're not sure about this. We don't have any real solid evidence. The only thing that really does remain is her music, and even in some cases, I believe La Chantar Mère, this particular piece, there's only segments of it. The entire piece is not complete, but she's left behind enough that we know what it probably sounded like, and it has been recreated. Now, most of the times that I have heard it recorded, it is recorded with a string instrument, and that would have made sense because a lot of troubadours use things like lutes or early other kinds of string instruments, which of course made sense because if they were traveling, if they were strolling around and making music for pleasure and singing secular music just to charm people as they walked around, they would have needed to carry an instrument that would have been portable. So a string instrument is very likely, although it's also believed, historians believe, that this was actually written for flute. So she would have maybe had a flute singer. She couldn't have sung and played flute at the same time, but it's very possible that this person, who might or might not have been named Beatrice, performed this with a flute. Anyway, it's remarkable in the sense that it survives, but it's also important to remember that outside of the church, there were no restrictions and people could have music accompaniment. They could have instrumental accompaniment. So what we have here is a person singing with a variety of different instruments supporting them, right? That would have made this a homophonic texture. It's also fairly danceable. It's a little bit more rhythmic, and it's also a little bit more ornate in terms of the poetry. Most of the lyrics that we're listening to when it comes to religious music is all about God, all about Mary, all about the power of heaven, the power of various different deities, but this is much more about love. And a Chantar Mère is basically I must sing. That's what it translates into. And the translation also goes on to say, I have to sing about how much I love you, even though it's painful, even though I don't think you love me back. I want it known how much I love you, and so I'm going to sing to the heavens about it. I'm going to sing to everybody who can hear me about it. So that's what this piece is. Let's start listening, and I'll talk along. That's what I do. So this would have been a lute, a type of lute that was playing. And again, we're not sure if there was a lute that accompanied her or a flute, but either way, there would have been an instrument. The scale here is a medieval scale. It's a medieval mode. It's very Spanish sounding, and that's not an accident. There was a lot of connection. There was an increased connection. This was a period of great spread of Islam, and also a golden age for Islam in terms of power and control of various regions. And as various different regions grew and developed powerful rulers, here's our singer, they established trade routes, and there was a lot of connection between the Islamic regions and Europe that connected up through Spain. There were a lot of Spanish-sounding music is actually very strongly influenced by Islam. So that's what you're hearing. If you're thinking that, this sounds like Spanish, like flamenco, or this sounds like something, contemporary and a little bit more Spanish sounding. That's why. That's what you're hearing. Again, no need for a cappella, so no need just to sing alone without any accompaniment, because this is secular music. And it's interesting that even back in the Middle Ages, secular music, like popular music, was about love. It's so fascinating, isn't it? I mean, think about it. So much of our music now, you turn on anything about pop music, so much about pop music is about love, maybe sex, but romantic love, really. And so even hundreds of years ago, people were singing about broken hearts. Here comes a really strong rhythm, right? Secular music at the time would have been probably more connected to dancing and to moving, right? Nuns were not busting out into dancing. It was not cool in the church. But the court, no problem. There was lots of entertainment and dancing in the courts. So this is music that would have had at least a little bit of a semblance of meter. Now, in terms of texture, it's kind of a crapshoot, I would argue. I mean, in some ways, it really also sounds, some of you may be thinking, this sounds kind of polyphonic, not homophonic. And I would argue you might be right a little bit. I mean, it's the instruments are doing their own thing. Still, I would argue that you could probably, if you're hearing this as homophonic, I would agree with you. If you're hearing this as polyphonic, I would agree with you. Sometimes texture is fluid and up to the ear. It's up to the ear of the listener to decide. I do hear a flute in this mix sometimes. So I think there's more than, there's a number of instruments. There are a million different versions of this. If you Google the title of the piece, you'll be able to hear there's lots and lots of performances of this, different kinds of performances of this. I think this particular link, if you want to go look at it in the other, just without my voice, you'll be able to read a translation. But if you can't find a translation, it's basically, I love you, you don't love me back. I am sad. I'm going to sing about it. Everyone dance. It's amazing how little times have changed, isn't it? I think that buzzy instrument, it's not one that we really look at in this class, but I believe that's either a hurdy-gurdy, like a kind of accordion, or it could be a harmonium, which is another kind of accordion. There's a million different types of instruments like that existed at the time, predecessors to the modern accordion. Okay, here we are, coming to the stirring conclusion. There we are. A popular song, a secular song that was performed for entertainment from 600 years ago. It's amazing. It's amazing that we still have it. Anyway, that's that. Take care.